What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we're going to be chatting with Alex Wolfe of Locked On Knicks as the Knicks make a trade to acquire Atlanta Hawks Cam Reddish, a potential steal here a few weeks removed from the NBA trade deadline. What is Cam Reddish's role going to look like for this New York Knicks team? And are the Knicks finally turning the corner this season? But first, a quick message from our friends over at Built Bar, because look, it's the new year. So that means New Year's resolutions, right? If you're just about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. They've got so many amazing flavors to choose from: strawberry, cookies and cream, coconut brownie chunk, my personal favorite, mint brownie, peanut butter. You can't go wrong with a single flavor on their menu. If you want to eat healthy, but it's just too boring to you, like, check out Built Bar, right? They can help you stick to your New Year's resolutions, and you can check them out. Just go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your very next order of the best tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Joining us now is Alex Wolfe, one of the hosts of Locked On Knicks. Alex, I come away thinking maybe it's a little too early to say this, but Cam Reddish potentially a steal here, not quite at the NBA trade deadline, but potentially as we navigate closer to the NBA trade deadline. I walk away thinking that this deal, just overall, looking at the structure of it, Kevin Knox and a first-round pick by way of the Charlotte Hornets for Cam Reddish, Solomon Hill, and a 2025 second rounder. I think this is an absolute steal for the Knicks. What was your reaction to this deal?
I really liked it. It's funny, like Reddish's name had come up a few times. Obviously he was just generally available, but then, we did like a mailbag show, for example, on Locked On Knicks, and someone, of course, was like, "Oh, would you want to trade for Cam Reddish?" And basically exactly what they wound up trading him for was the exact package that I said, like, yeah, I think that's what I'll be comfortable giving up. I think that's Charlotte first round pick. I mean, it's a first round pick in name, but it's never going to convey as anything higher than the 15th pick. And that's only if it delays like 4 years. I think it's like top 18, top 16, top 16, top 14, and then conveys as 2 second round picks. So, like, if it conveys, cool, like, good for Atlanta that they get that pick. The Knicks have done well with late first round picks like that, but I think ultimately, and this is probably what the Knicks front office saw in him, nobody is going to have as much potential as Cam Reddish at that spot. If you get a 18th, 20th, whatever overall pick, you can't really find a Cam Reddish there. Nobody with like that high of raw potential. And I mean, this is a dude that was like ranked number 1 in his high school class by a lot of people going into that season at Duke. Ironically, Zion Williamson was the only one that you really couldn't find ranked number 1 too often. RJ and Cam were sort of like the very common 1 and 2 in that class. And so, like, from the Knicks perspective, I totally understand it. You take these sort of swings when you can. I think that maybe they could have found another Quentin Grimes or Emmanuel Quickley if they held on to that pick. But, as great as those two guys have been, Grimes is a rookie, Quickley now in his second year, and as much potential as we see out of them, I think, if things fall right with Cam Reddish, we literally heard his own ex-GM and his own ex-coach both said, like, we think he could become a superstar. We're really kind of sad that he didn't want to stick around here. So I think you take a really good gamble with him, and the skills are tantalizing. He's a great pull-up generator, I should say. He's not a great pull-up shooter yet. Not enough of them are going in, but he's good at finding a shot. He showed in high school, at least, that he could be a really good passer. He could break guys down off the dribble. He's shooting almost 40% from 3 this year, so seems to be turning a corner there. 90% from the free throw line. Things are looking pretty good. I really like the gamble by the Knicks on the Reddish deal.
So Reddish was reportedly, pretty vocal about wanting a bigger role than what he was, kind of stuck with, I guess, for lack of better terminology, with the Atlanta Hawks. And as unfortunate as that is, with, again, receiving high praise from within the organization there, is he essentially walking into, would you imagine, like a starter's role with the Knicks, or is that something he's going to have to earn his way towards under head coach Tom Thibodeau?
Definitely the latter. I don't think he's going to just like walk right in and start. I think that they maybe have plans of giving him a look in that capacity and saying, hey, if he's playing well enough, we will elevate him to that. Because then it'd be pretty cool to be able to start him and RJ Barrett, as former Duke teammates and then as Knicks teammates. If they can develop together, that's pretty good for the Knicks. But he's not going to just walk right into it. Unfortunately, I mean, for him, the Knicks already have almost like a logjam. It's only been freed up by like injuries and COVID absences recently, that the Knicks haven't just had way too many players that deserve to be on the floor that can't actually see the floor. You have Obi Toppin, who has been like, one of their best per minute players for large parts of the year, sometimes struggles to get 15 minutes on the floor any given night. Like Quentin Grimes, who I mentioned already, has played really, really well. He's already a good 3-and-D NBA player and can struggle to find 15, 20 minutes any given night, even when there's injuries. So, I don't think Reddish is just going to walk right in and have a role handed to him. I think if I had to guess, especially early on, he's probably going to have a quick hook, pretty similar to most of the rest of the Knicks young players. They'll probably try to find 10 to 15 minutes for him early on, but he'll have to really earn his minutes and earn that spot going forward, especially because finally, for pretty much the first time all year, the Knicks really seem to be sort of finding something with both their starting lineup and their bench unit, which they're probably not going to be too keen to disrupt. So I don't think that they're going to be like, let's make a wholesale giant change to fundamentally how we play by playing Cam Reddish more, because they're finally kind of sort of starting to turn the corner here, and I don't think they want to mess that up potentially.
That's exactly. I mean, I was going to say maybe Cam Reddish is joining it at the opportune time, right? Because it does kind of feel like the Knicks are maybe kind of turning that corner just a little bit here. They're 8-3 over their last 11 games, starting to string together some good quality wins. I mean, as far as that goes, though, I think one of the issues, kind of looking at the Knicks season to this point, is I think you have to look at Julius Randle and his numbers just kind of across the board, not where they were at last season, unfortunately, especially that three ball just not falling at a quality clip. As far as Randle goes, was last season just kind of lightning in a bottle, or is there at least a hope or an expectation that he can get back to that level of play that he was at last year?
I think what's happening this year is that Julius is running into a lot more opposition from opposing defenses than he did last year, coupled with the fact that, he and the entire NBA, to be completely, fair to him, are all experiencing shooting regression this year, because you're not shooting in empty arenas anymore. You're shooting in buildings full of people again. The noise, the movement, everything else is enough to, throw off guys with their shooting touch. And so, I think that he struggled a little bit early in the season. The Knicks sort of intentionally wanted to take some responsibility off his plate to say, hey, like, you don't have to be the main guy every single minute of every single game anymore. We want to make life easier for you, give you Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier, RJ Barrett, a year older, getting, more comfortable with running the offense, generating offense for others. And I don't know if Julius was necessarily ready for that right away. And that sort of led to early in the season, it just seemed like nobody quite knew what to do with one another. Nobody knew who should be handling the ball. Julius seemed to always think that it should be him. I think Kemba Walker was playing too passive early in the year, which led to him getting benched. Comes back, starts playing more aggressive, and then Julius for a little bit was being a little too passive, or maybe too deferential, like intentionally deferential to the point where it was almost a detriment to the team. Now I think he's finally starting to find his balance, and I think the biggest thing that we're seeing that's leading to the Knicks playing well now. What's funny is, like, out of that 8 of 11 that they've won, the first 3 in a row were not super encouraging. They were facing a bunch of teams that were really hurt by COVID absences and really like not at full strength. And then since then, we've started to see them face teams that they're beating a little more comfortably now. And now this current 3-game win streak they're on, I think finally is one that fans can feel a little more confident about, because they're doing it against teams that have most of their roster back. They themselves have most of their own roster back. So things are starting to take shape as far as how things should hopefully look the rest of the year, barring another COVID outbreak or something in a few months. But I think that Julius is really settling himself in a role where he's not feeling like he has to initiate every time, but where he's making good reads again, like he did last year. So even if the 3-point shot isn't falling quite as much now, or even if he's not even scoring as many points on any given night, he's still providing a positive impact by being a ball mover, by, sort of finding his spots, but not being afraid to just pass it to someone else who is cooking or whatever and let them work with it. And it's really starting to work out well for the Knicks. They're finding a great balance, I think, between him and RJ Barrett as sort of their 1A, 1B, and really finding better ways to get guys like Evan Fournier, Alec Burks, Quentin Grimes, Mitchell Robinson at center, involved in the offense in productive ways, more so than they were last year. Or sorry, earlier this year, I should say.
RJ Barrett, I'm glad you brought him up a couple times there, but I've been really impressed with him, especially over this last little stretch of time. He's about these past 7 games, he's putting up basically 25 points on almost 50% from 3. He has had a few 30-point nights kind of in the mix there. Are you starting to see him kind of taking that next step, that next, accessing that next level of his game?
Yeah, I really hope so. It certainly seems that way as of right now. He's it's been a weird season for him, and every single year of his career has been start off the season pretty well and then hit a massive, massive cold streak and then close the season strong. He did that his rookie year. He really did that last year, where last year down the stretch after opening the season shooting like 15% or something from 3 over the first 20 games, he closed out the rest of the season shooting 45% on high volume and wound up shooting 40% from 3 for the year. This year, we're starting to see a much more diverse bag of tricks with him. Now, depending on what you think actually happened or whatever, or what, the Knicks have alluded to and been a little aloof about him having some sort of stomach bug or illness of some sort earlier in the season, which really led to him having one of those just ghastly cold stretches. And, he started off the season real strong about the first 5-6 games, had this 18 or so game long, just terrible cold stretch, started to figure it out, then hits the COVID list, and then comes back from the COVID list, was kind of cold again, and now is starting to really find his stride again. So if you believe what the Knicks have been alluding to, that he did have some sort of illness earlier in the year that was really holding him down, then yeah, I think maybe we are starting to finally see him turn the corner and do it in a sustainable way. The way that he's finding his shots is so great. He's handling the ball well. He's finding, really interesting ways to score the ball. Mid-range pull-ups, which weren't really part of his bag before. He's been bringing those out to great effect lately. He still could shoot the 3 ball quite well, and he's been shooting a lot of spot ups, which has been great for him off of Julius Randle, generated opportunities, which is great to see. He's starting to get to the hoop and use his body more and finish confidently around the hoop. And, all these various things have just led to him being he's starting to really come together as a 3-level scorer that also has good enough vision and timing to run pick and rolls and find teammates out of situations that he generates. So I really like what we're seeing from him. I really hope that it is sustainable this time around. And if his first 2 seasons prior to this are any indication, he should end up finishing this year off really strong. And if he does, then yeah, if we get a solid 30, 35 game sample of how he's been playing lately, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, I think he's probably turning a corner at this point.
The newest New York Knick, Cam Reddish. You're going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Knicks. Alex, appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me. And yeah, check out Locked On Knicks. We got all kinds of great stuff, Cam Reddish and otherwise, because the Knicks finally starting to be fun again. And it's a great thing to see.